Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, how one of the world's biggest energy producers is engineering a massive green transformation. And the key to it all doesn't start with an oil rig. It starts with a question that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction.
I mean, really think about that. What if you could literally vacuum carbon dioxide right out of the atmosphere? Or stop it from ever leaving a smokestack in the first place? It might sound like a movie plot, but this is the real-world tech at the very heart of this entire story.
Okay, so let's get into it. Before we can understand the bigger strategy, we've got to get our heads around the technology that makes it all possible: carbon capture. So what exactly is CCUS? Well, you can think of it as a set of tools that basically act like a giant filter. They grab carbon dioxide from big industrial sources or even just from the open air. But here's the game-changing part. Instead of just letting that CO2 go, this technology lets us either store it away for good or, and this is the really cool part, utilize it. Turn it into something new and valuable.
The whole process is kind of like a three-step dance. First, you've got the capture, where the CO2 is separated out from all the other gases. Step 2 is transport. You compress it and move it, usually through a pipeline. And then, Step 3 is the grand finale. It's either stored deep underground, safely locked away, or it's utilized, recycled into things like chemicals or even next-gen fuels.
And this isn't some one-size-fits-all solution. We're talking about a whole spectrum of different approaches. You've got technology that pulls CO2 right out of the air, systems that grab it at the source, and even nature-based solutions, like planting mangrove forests, which are just incredible natural carbon sponges. It's a really diverse toolkit for a very complex problem.
Okay, so that's the theory, but what does this stuff look like out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at how an energy giant like Aramco is putting this technology to work on a truly massive scale.
Just look at these two projects. In places like Hawiyah and Uthmaniyah, they're injecting 45 million cubic feet of captured CO2 underground every single day. Now, what's fascinating is that this process, called enhanced oil recovery, does two things. It stores the carbon and, kind of ironically, it also helps extract more oil. Then you have the Jubail Hub, which is this enormous facility designed to basically be the carbon capture center for an entire industrial city.
And the scale here is just mind-boggling. The Jubail project on its own is aiming to capture up to 9 million metric tons of CO2 every year. To give you some perspective, that's like taking almost 2 million cars off the road every single year. It just goes to show you the level of investment and ambition behind this. This quote from Aramco really gets to the heart of the philosophy here. It's about a complete mindset shift, from seeing CO2 as a useless waste product that you have to get rid of, to seeing it as a valuable raw material for a whole new generation of products. But here's the thing. These gigantic industrial projects, as impressive as they are, they're not the whole story, not even close. They're actually a critical piece of a much, much bigger national plan. And that's where we zoom out to Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. This is the master plan, the grand roadmap that pulls all these individual threads together into one single, cohesive national transformation.
So Vision 2030 is this national roadmap, and it's really built on 3 core pillars, and you can see how sustainability is just woven into all of them. Vibrant society is about quality of life, which of course includes a healthy environment. Thriving economy is all about moving beyond oil, which means building up things like a huge renewable energy sector. An ambitious nation is about governing effectively for the long term, being a responsible steward of the country's resources.
So how does a grand vision like that actually translate into action? Well, the answer is a framework they call the circular carbon economy.
This model, which has been endorsed by the G20, is basically a way to manage emissions by closing the loop on carbon. The whole thing is guided by 4 pretty simple principles, the 4 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, and remove.
And here's what that looks like on the ground. Reduce means things like boosting efficiency and shooting for 50% renewable energy by 2030. Reuse is about creating new energy sources like blue and green hydrogen. Recycle, well, that's where our carbon capture tech comes back into play, turning CO2 into new stuff. And finally, remove is all about massive nature-based solutions, like the absolutely incredible plan to plant 10 billion trees. And the scale of that remove part is it's hard to even wrap your head around. We are talking about giant urban greening projects like King Salman Park and this gigantic afforestation initiative. The goal is to literally fight back against desertification and create enormous new carbon sinks.
So you've got the tech, you've got the corporate action, and you've got the national framework. So where is all of this leading? Well, the ultimate destination is net zero.
And you can see that this commitment is only getting more serious. The kingdom's annual emissions reduction target for 2030 has more than doubled. It went from an already ambitious 130 million tons of CO2 equivalent all the way up to a massive 278 million tons. That is a huge jump in ambition.
All of these different pieces, the carbon capture hubs, the push for renewables, those 10 billion trees, they're all building towards one single target year, 2060. That's the date the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is aiming to hit net zero emissions. And there's one final, really powerful point from the kingdom's official climate plan. It says that their commitments are not dependent on getting financial help from other countries. It's a way of underscoring that this transformation is being driven and funded from within.
Which leaves us with this one big final question. The technology is there, the investment is there, and the national ambition is definitely there. But can a nation whose entire modern economy was built on oil truly lead a global green energy transformation? The plan is on the table, and you can be sure the world is watching.